Hello crafty friends, I'm Lean from Studio Kato and I'm so happy you're joining me again today. Today I have found the easiest way to make a simple snow scene. Now let's get right into it. I am using the Pinkfresh Studio Essentials Blanket Stitched Oval dies, and I used the largest one to die cut my oval that I'm going to stamp on, and then I used this stamp set by My Favorite Things, and I'm only going to use that lantern stamp there. I really like Stacy Akula's designs, and I definitely love this lantern. I really wanted to make a Christmas card with this as soon as I got this stamp set, which was not at all around Christmas time. So I finally got around to it. I am putting that lantern just not in the center of my oval. I hate things being in the center, so I just put it on the right side there. And I'm stamping that onto the oval, which is cut from Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock, and I'm stamping it with Versafine Onyx black ink. This is great ink if you also want to add embossing powder, which I do. So I'm going to add some Wow Clear Gloss Superfine embossing powder to this, so I have a nice glossy finish. And my ink blending won't cover up any of the lines. The embossing will resist the ink blending nicely, and I will get some nice and crisp lines in the end as well. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to do some ink blending. Now I'm just going to start with the yellow for the lamp, for the light, and I'm just making a tiny circle, because you don't want your yellow and your blue from the night sky to overlap. You don't want green in your night sky, you just want yellow and blue. Usually when you're ink blending, you try to overlap the colors to make them blend together nicely. Don't do that for this effect. Now I'm using some Pinkfresh Studio inks here. I am going from light to dark, obviously. The further away I go from the light, the darker my sky will be. I will also use some reverse confetti inks, and I will finish it off with the same pigment ink I used for stamping, the Versafine Onyx black ink, because that is the darkest black you could ever think of. So that's what I love to use for night skies if I want to bring in some black. Now you also see that even though this is only the second this is my mid-tone shade, basically, and I covered the entire panel with it. I am going to cover the entire panel with every color, or well, from the outside in. I'm not going to go all the way in because I want some of that lighter color to stay light, but the darker areas will have all of the colors of ink underneath it. And building up that color is really important, because even if you go darker in your ink shades, you won't get a darker result necessarily if you don't layer your inks on top of each other. You can also see that I just went straight over the lantern. I didn't mask that off, and it wasn't necessary. It's actually better if you don't, I think, because if you just blend that yellow ink over the lantern, you get that nice yellow glow underneath your alcohol marker coloring. So I'm just doing some really simple coloring with my alcohol markers, and you get the blue from the night sky reflected in the metal of the lamppost, I guess. And you also get that yellow glow at the top of the lantern. This is basically the effect you would get if you did an underpainting in watercolor. I don't do those a lot usually, but that's the idea behind it. You get a nice cohesive look because you have the tones of your background in your focal image. Now the coloring is really simple and it doesn't look like much yet, but we still have to add the snow. Oh, I am also adding some orange to the flame there, and I'm adding some white gel pen to make the candle in the lantern white. Now for the snow, I am using some white acrylic paint. I'm using a really raggedy old brush to apply it, and I'm just dotting it on quite thickly. But you have to be aware of a couple of things. One, that the ink underneath it is water reactive. It's dye ink, it's water reactive, so that means the blue will show through in the white, or the white will take on some of that blue. One way to counter that is to heat set it right away, but it's acrylic paint, so it's hard to dry it completely. Now, you do get a nice effect when heat setting it. Another way is to just layer a couple of layers on top of each other. So first I added a couple of bits of snow against one side of the lantern, like the snow is blowing one way. It's a really sticky snow, the best snow to build a snowman from. But yeah, I heat set it in between, and the paint kind of puffs up a little bit because acrylic paint is meant to be heat set. So it puffs up a little bit, which is great for a snowy effect, and it dries the top layer. It doesn't dry what's underneath it. So you can just put another layer of acrylic paint on top of that barely dry first layer. And that won't take on the blue color because you have that one first layer of acrylic paint buffering it, basically. Now to add some snow, I'm just adding some water to my acrylic paint, and I am splattering it on with a smaller raggedy old paintbrush. I use my worst brushes for acrylic paint because I usually leave them out way too long before I clean them. I'm an awful crafter. I'm splattering that on, and I'm being really quickly about it, actually, because again, this white paint will reactivate the colors underneath it, and if you don't heat set it right away, that will take on the blue again. So I heat set that right away. It's not shown here, but that finishes up that panel. So I just glued a panel of craft paper to my white card base. Then I added some foam tape between the oval and the craft panel, so I propped it up on some foam tape, and then I also added a sentiment, and that finishes it basically. Now to make a matching envelope, I used some colored cardstock. This is actually from a patterned paper pack, that's why it's only colored on one side. I just like the color with this card. I just folded it with the We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board, adhered it with the barely art precision craft glue, sorry. And then I can stamp that lantern on the back of it with Versamark ink. So any clear embossing ink will do here. And I am using the Wow Bright White Superfine embossing powder to heat set that in white. I really love this lantern. It's a great nod to the card design, but it doesn't give too much away either. And I love that snowy scene. It was so simple to make, and I can definitely see myself actually mass producing these. This didn't take me long at all, and it was really fun to do. I hope you like it too, and I hope you try this technique out for creating a snow scene. All you need is some cheap white acrylic paint. You can get those anywhere at the dollar store, I'm pretty sure. So that's really fun supply to have. It's also great for splatter, as you saw. If you like this card and if you like the video, please leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. And since it's almost Christmas, I will leave a Christmas card playlist on this video linked for you to watch until I post my next video. And if you want to be notified of when I post my next video, please subscribe to my channel and click that bell button down below to be notified. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope I see you next time.